Now that we've settled on a definition of correctness, namely conflict serializability, let's look at enforcing it. The most common way to enforce conflict serializability is something called two-phase locking. Now, two-phase locking is a bit pessimistic. What we're going to do is we're going to set locks for fear of conflict. So we're going to lock objects in the database to avoid conflicting actions from happening. But there's some cost here. If there are no conflicting actions, we're setting these locks for no reason, and that's extra work. So there have been schemes that have been proposed to avoid this work, to not set locks, and just be optimistic. Just let transactions go forward and touch whatever they want to, doing reading and writing. And let's just be optimistic that they don't conflict. And then what we'll do is at the end of the transactions, we'll look to see if any conflicts occurred. And if there were conflicts, we'll abort the transactions that conflicted. And we're not going to learn about these schemes in this class, but I want you to know some of their names so that you can look them up if you become interested. They're relevant in certain contexts. So one is called optimistic concurrency control, and another is called multi-version concurrency control. And there's a particular scheme called timestamp ordered multi-version concurrency control that's been getting a lot of use in recent years. Now, we're not going to study these schemes in this lecture or in this class. They're sort of advanced material, but I encourage you to look them up if you are curious. Two-phase locking is built on two rules. The first rule is as follows. A transaction must obtain an S lock, which is a shared lock, before it reads an object. And it must obtain an X lock, or an exclusive lock, before it writes that object. And S locks and X locks have a compatibility rule that looks like this matrix. So you can think of the rows of this table as being the possible requests of one transaction on an object, and the columns of the table as being the possible requests of another transaction on the same object. If they both want to get an S lock, that's okay, that's compatible. But if either of them wants an X lock, then only one of them can have it at a time. It's not compatible to have a shared lock and an exclusive lock on the same object from two different transactions, okay? So that's the first rule of two-phase locking, and that applies object by object in the database. The second rule for two-phase locking is the two-phase part. A transaction cannot get new locks after it releases any lock. Now, when you look at a transaction's behavior over time, you can graph it like the picture on this slide, where time is going to the right and the number of locks held by the transaction is on the vertical axis. And you can see that the transaction starts acquiring locks. We call that the acquisition phase. And at some point, it's got the most locks it's ever going to have. That's the dotted line in this picture. And then it releases a lock. From now on, because of two-phase locking, it can't acquire any new locks, and so it slowly releases locks until it has none left. And we'll see that two-phase locking guarantees conflict serializability. Why? Well, we'll discuss that on the next slide. But two-phase locking has a problem, which is that it does not prevent cascading aborts. And we'll discuss what that means on the slide after. When a committing transaction has reached the end of its lock acquisition phase, it's at what we'll call the lock point. That was the dotted line in the previous slide, the dotted vertical line. And at that point in time, the transaction has everything it needs already locked. What does that mean about conflicting transactions? Well, any transaction that conflicts with this transaction either unlocked something already and started its release phase, or it's waiting to lock something that this transaction already has locked, so it's blocked. In the end, then, the visibility of actions of two conflicting transactions are ordered by their lock points. Two conflicting transactions will see data in the order that their lock points occur in time. And therefore, the order of lock points gives us an equivalent serial schedule to the schedule that we get from two-phase locking.